So in this video, I'm going to talk about my experience at the Warren's Occult Museum in Connecticut when they opened it up for tours. So if you're not familiar with the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine, they were among the first ghost hunters in the United States, if not the world, in the 60s and 70s. And they investigated some landmark cases. Like they were the first into the Amityville house, the Enfield ghosts, uh, disembodied voices. I believe that was the Conjuring 2 was based on that case, um, and amongst others. The house in Rhode Island, um, the original Conjuring movie, and so forth. Anyway, um, back to college days in the 1980s, the Warrens would do a circuit of all the colleges in southern New England, and they would present all their evidence. They would discuss their cases, they would show the photos, videos, if they had any, audio of a few of the cases. And of course, you were always thrilled to go to those. So I ended up going to one. I can't remember the year, probably 1988, 89, when they were at Southern Connecticut State University. So I think we ended up going a few more times, but became very familiar with their work. I think I'd mentioned before when I talked about Ouija boards, Lorraine was very adamant against using Ouija boards, and that's what I told my mother, so she would stop using them by herself. Anyway, so fast forward to the mid 2000s, back in Connecticut, and we discovered that the Warrens will be opening up their occult museum to the public, very small groups. So at this point, Ed had passed, so it was Lorraine and her son-in-law Tony Spira, who's kind of taken over the lead there. If you want to hear more about the Warren stories, you can go to the website for the society they founded. I think it's the New England Society for Parapsychological Research, nespr.org, and learn more information about some of the backstories of these objects. But anyway, in this occult museum, for years, they would place any objects they came into possession of, either through casework or if the Connecticut State Police called them and said, we found something satanic in a house or out in the woods, Ed would go and collect it and bring it to this occult museum. And as it was described to us, they would bring in a Tibetan monk monthly to do these encapsulating prayers around each object to contain the auras so that they wouldn't mix or affect anyone else. And by their own admission, they did not go into this museum at night. It was locked. And because they would hear noises coming from that room at night. So, anyway, they decided to open it up to the public. Um, so I sign up, and a friend of mine at the time, coworker of mine, she wants to come along also because she wants to see Annabelle, which is another case. The whole movie's made about Annabelle. She is a Raggedy Ann doll, not what's portrayed in the movie. So anyway, again, if you want the history of these objects, like the chair that everyone sat in has died, Annabelle attacking a police officer that mocked it at their house once. All these stories can be found on their website. So anyway, we show up at the Warrens' house that night, and it's a very eclectic house. And Ed had passed at this point, so it was just Lorraine and Tony. We go into the living room and start hearing. They had chickens in their house, and I think a parrot. Anyway, very eccentric people, but they had chickens in their house. So they bring us down into the cellar, into the basement, and the basement itself was a little bit strange setup. It was set up to be a picnic grove. So they had a brick floor in one room, and then they had a pavilion with a picnic table underneath that inside the basement. So we sat there. To the left was a hallway that went down to a spare bedroom and a bathroom. And then the other hallway led underground to the Occult Museum, which I believe was under their yard, connected by an underground tunnel. So we're funneled into this picnic pavilion with a TV. And of course, Lorraine has to show her favorite exorcism video from the 70s of a French Canadian farmer in Massachusetts that they became possessed and they exorcised in, I think, the late 70s, early 80s. So they taped it. And she plays this exorcism tape to get us warmed up, I guess. And so, the tape is pretty disturbing. I didn't like watching it. Um, he recites Latin backwards at one point. He doesn't blink for about 7 minutes. He's like in this just dead stare for 7, 10, 15 minutes, the whole duration, but doesn't blink for 7 minutes. And then these cuts start opening up on his face and start bleeding right on camera. So great. Coincidentally, in the middle of this video, the hallway that goes to the bedroom and the bathroom, all of a sudden the lights go out in the hallway by themselves. No one's down there. So several of us look at each other. It's like, did you see that? The lights went out in the hallway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we bring it up. It's like, Lorraine, the lights just went out in the hallway. And she, like my mother, just casually replies, oh, that's just Ed saying hello, honey. Don't worry about it. Like nothing phases this woman. She's seen it all. She's done it all. Anyway, so they finish the video. Then they divide us up into groups of about 4 or 5. And so we line up in the hallway that leads to the museum. And mind you, the sun is setting at this point, and I thought they didn't want anyone in there in the dark. So, of course, I forgot to bring my crucifix, and I was going to duct tape a Bible to my chest, the whole 9 yards. So I'm not messing around with this stuff. So my friend and I are in the first group. He lets us in. He says, okay, don't touch anything. Don't go near anything. Don't talk to anything. Don't challenge anything. Nothing. Just go in, walk around, observe, and then leave the room. If anything happens, you tell me immediately. Very dead serious. So we're led into the room, and it's very crowded. The aisles there are very narrow. It's a room probably about 20 by 20 feet in size. Very narrow aisles, and there's stuff everywhere. And you're being careful not to touch or bump into anything. So we get a few feet in and wind up standing next to the wall with the conjuring mirrors on it. And so my friend says, oh, there's Annabelle. And Annabelle is in a glass box, isolated from everyone, hanging off a rafter in the back corner. So no one can reach her or touch or mess with the doll. So she picks up her camera to take a picture. And I said, don't be taking pictures of that stuff. I don't need anything following me home. Soon as I started saying that, I feel this cold, whatever it was, ice cold arm, whatever, goes right through my leg from the wall with the conjuring mirrors on it. Felt like an arm, wasn't very big, ice cold, right below the knee, right through my leg. Tony, something just swiped at me from the mirrors. Tony. He's like, well, we'll get out of here. And he grabs me and he pushes me out of the room. And of course, as I'm leaving the room, there's the hallway with the rest of the people waiting to get in. Like, what happened? And I just ran up to the living room. Lorraine was in the living room. I'm like, something just swiped at me from the conjuring mirrors. It was ice cold. And she just says, well, what did you do to piss it off, honey? I was like, I didn't do anything. She's trying to take pictures of Annabelle. I told her not to. So she calms me down, makes sure nothing's attached to me. And I just stayed there the rest of the evening until my friend was done with the museum tour. About 5 minutes later, another young lady comes up and she is sobbing. She is inconsolable. And so I don't remember what happened. Lorraine went over there to work on her, calm her down, make sure nothing's attached and all that. And I don't recall hearing what caused her to go into hysterics. But anyway, this all begs the question, why would you open the Occult Museum up to the public if you think or know things like this might happen? So that was my only experience visiting the museum. Of course, Lorraine has since passed on. I believe Tony Spira is taken over their legacy, and he may be the chair of the New England Society now, NESPR. .org if you want to check out what's going on there. But anyway, that's my experience there. I do know, I don't know if the museum is still open. I don't know if it's even still physically there at their house in Connecticut. I do know that Ghost Adventures has had an interest in trying to either mess with or acquire some of these objects like Annabelle or the chair or other things, um, which I hope, I don't know. If you're not a medium or psychic or have an understanding or religious background or the training or the knowledge or the protections to deal with these things, you really should not be messing with them. So that's all I'm going to say about that topic. But that is my experience with the Warrens Occult Museum.